registering your driver. Then second step is obtaining a connection or creating a connection. And then you have to create a space for executing your SQL statement. And then after executing that statement, whatever results your database is giving back, that result you have to store in some kind of say matrix, 2 by 2 or say n by n matrix, which is called as result set. And this result set will be used for your further application of or according to your programming logic, you can use this result set. And after you done this, you need to close the connection. So these are the 5 basic steps which you need to carry out while writing a simple JDBC program. Now, I have written these 5 steps, and accordingly, I have written what you can write for your Java program. For example, you have to load the database driver. So how it can be done? It can be done by using the class loading method, that is the class.forName. That forName method you can use, which will load that class, that means JDBC driver into the memory. And if you are using MySQL, we are taking or we are considering here MySQL as a database, for example, because that MySQL is very light to use, and it gives almost everything which the heavyweight database also provides. Okay, so this is the name which you need to specify while registering your MySQL driver. If it is Oracle, then Oracle will specify some other name. That name you have to specify. If it is DB2, then according to DB2, what is the name that you have to see, and that name you have to give for that driver. So this forName method will load your class or JDBC driver in memory, and then you have to make the connection, that is obtain a connection. So how will you make the connection? For that, get connection method is there. Now this get connection method belongs to driver manager class. Now all these classes and interfaces belong to your SQL, that means JDBC API. So get connection method is a method which will be there in driver manager class. You have to use that method to make the connection. Now this method will require 3 parameters. So your first parameter is URL. That means you have to specify the URL of your database server. So it is not like that your whatever system you are writing your program onto same system, your database may be there, or it may be onto different system in a network, or it may be in a different city also, it may be in a different country also. So wherever that database is there, so you need to connect it through the URL. So that URL, the syntax of that URL is JDBC:/MySQL:/ and this is localhost. Localhost we are using as we are keeping the same system for your application program and same system for your database. So onto the same system you are using it. That's why we are using localhost. Otherwise, you can use the IP address here for the database server, or you can use the name of the system where your database resides, followed by the name of the database. So this is the name of database. Suppose name of database is say student. Then in that case, here you will have to write the name as student. If the name of database is say XYZ, then here you have to write the URL followed by the name of database. That will be the first argument. Second argument and third argument will be represented as a user and password. User and password of whom? User and password of the database server. That means when you are installing any database server, Oracle or MySQL or MS SQL, you can create several areas for several users also. So if you are working for some particular user, then you should know the name of that user and you should know the password for that user. So that username and password you have to provide as a second and third argument for your connection. So once this get connection is done, what it will do? It will add the connection to the connection object. That's why we are here declaring the connection object console or connection, and then driver manager dot get connection with all these three parameters. So that is the step number 2 of making connection. And step number 3 is very simple. That means create and execute SQL statement. So for this purpose, what you have to do is you have to call the create statement method. Now this create statement method belongs to statement object. So it belongs to the connection object. So connection object you have already created here in step number 2. So you have to just say con.create statement, and the create statement will allow you to create a space for firing your SQL query. So the syntax for that creating statement is statement. You can create any object of type statement is equals to con.create statement. Then thereafter, after firing your query, that means whenever you want to fire the query, some result you will get back. So that result you can hold in a result set object, which is provided by again JDBC API. So you can create object of result set, and then you can use execute query method or execute update method. So there are various flavors of this execute update and execute query. So for simplicity, we are checking only 2 flavors, that is execute query and execute update. So if you are using data manipulation kind of queries, then you have to use execute update method. And if it is simple select query, then you have to use the execute query method. So that differentiation is there. So when to use execute query and when to use execute update. Execute update will be used for data manipulation queries. So data manipulation queries means any queries which will alter the database tables. Those will be called as data manipulation queries. So if you are firing such queries through this execute query, then the method you have to use is execute update. Otherwise, you have to use execute query method. And it will require only one argument, and that argument will be a simple query. Now this query you can put directly over here, or if your query is too big, then you can use some string variable, and there you can write your usual query, and that string variable you can pass as a argument for this execute query method. And this result set then can be accessed by next method. So next method, what it will do, it will point to the initial record of your database, and when once again that next method is being called, then it will point to the next record. So it will move on like this till it will encounter the end of record. When it encounters end of record, then you can terminate your loop. So the structure you can use like this, while result set dot next and go on checking whether it is true or false. So it will remain true as long as it is pointing to some valid records, and if it is pointing to no record, then it will return the false value. So as soon as you get the false value, you can come out of that loop. And in between this loop, whatever work we want to do with your database, you can do that. Okay. So that is how you can go. What we are going to do is we will take the examples of all these 4 operations, so that you will come to understand it very easily. Now there are SQL types also, and there are Java types also. And SQL types, their names or their nomenclature is different. The working is similar, but the Java typing and SQL typing, they differ in nomenclature. So we need to map them. So if you are using char, varchar or long varchar in MySQL, then for that you have to map it with the string data type in Java. If it is numeric or decimal in MySQL, then you have to map it with big decimal in Java. If it is bit, tiny integer, small integer, integer, then accordingly you have to map it with boolean, byte, short, integer, long, like that. If it is dead, then you have to map it with SQL date. If it is time, then SQL time, like that. Okay. So once you keep this typing or mapping of types, uh, that will be easy for you. Okay. So let us move for our actual working. And let me. Okay. So I am using here Notepad++. Okay, you can use any of the editor you want to use. If you want to use Notepad, or if you want to use say Edlin or Edit, or some Eclipse kind of editors, then you can use. So before starting actual program, you need to do some setting. So what setting you need to do? You have to install uh, MySQL community server, and then you have to install your Java compiler. Okay. So as Java is open source, you can go to the Java site. You can download the latest but one or latest version, and you can download it. And once you download, what it will do? It will be downloaded, or it will be installed in program files folder. Let me show you. So just a moment, light went off from my side, and oh, we can do it. Just a moment.
Hello.
Sir, Avinash sir, you are mute. Avinash sir.
Hello. I'm audible to all of you? Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Participant, just wait for a while.
Hello. Participant, please wait.
Hello, sir.
Participant, please wait.
हे चालू होतंय का तुम्हाला लॅपटॉप मध्ये चालू नाही होत का?
Participant, please wait. There is some problem from guest speaker.
I think meeting has been expired in 40 minutes, so we have to restart the meeting. Deepak sir.
तुमचं झालं की लगेच सुरू करून द्या.
Deepak sir.
सर तुम्ही बोला.
Hello. Please, all the participants, I request all the participants, please wait for a few minutes. There is some problem, technical issue from our host of our guest speaker side. So wait, he will join us with a short. Avinash sir will be joined within few minutes. Please wait.
Hello.
Hello.
Am I audible to
Am I
all of
audible
you?
to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Dear participants,
Dear participants,
sir is going to communicate with all of us within a
all
very
of
short time.
us within a very short
So
time. So
he had some technical issues
technical issues
at his end.
at his end.
So just wait for a while.
So just wait for a while.
ऐसा प्रॉब्लेम झाला आहे त्याच्यामुळे जे स्पीकर होते किती टाइम डाउट
मैडम आपका वोटर थैंक्स आएगा उसके पहले फीडबैक लिंक डाल देना क्योंकि इसमें मिनिमाइज नहीं करता हाँ ये रिकॉर्ड चालू है ना तो मिनिमाइज नहीं हो रहा है तो सरांकडे लाईट गेली सर त्यांच्याकडे त्यांनी सांगितलं मला
So I request all participants to wait a few minutes. Avinash sir will join us within a very short.
Hello sir. काय करायचं मग सूचना एंड करू का तुम्ही मोबाईलवरून कम्युनिकेट नाही करू शकणार बरोबर तर काही तुमच्याकडे पीपीटी मोबाईल असेल तर ते शो करून द्या सर स्क्रीन शेअर करून
Dear participants, there is some problem from our guest speaker and technical issue. He is unable to join the meeting once again. So we are trying to communicate him, but the technical issue from that end, so we are unable to solve it from this end. Their aim is to give the various information about this Java database connectivity. But unfortunately, there is some problem arise from our guest speaker end. So
hello
sir is going to join. Sir is going to join. Try to join once again.
am I
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Dear participant,
Yes, you are audible, Kishore.
we are trying to communicate with Dr. Avinash sir. At his end, there was a power off.
that's why he was not able to communicate with us with the system.
Dear participants, our Department of Computer Science and Information Technology, SK Parwal College Committee, continuously organizing this type of webinar for increasing the knowledge of UG and PG student. Under this series, today's webinar we organized, but due to some technical problem from our guest speaker end, he leave from the meeting, and now he is again trying to rejoin, but till then you have to just wait a few seconds.
सर होता है का बरोबर बरं तुम्ही जॉइन करून एक 5 मिनिटं ब्रीफिंग करून घ्या 5-10 मिनिटं जे काय होईल आणि मग वाइंड अप करून द्या जनरलच बोलून घ्या काही असं तुमच्याकडे पीपीटी वर शेअर करून ठीक आहे सर काय हरकत नाही ओके सर होत आहे सर जॉइन लाईव्ह क्लिअर सर तुमच्याकडे सर जॉइन होता म्हणतात 5 मिनिटं करून मग समोर करेल ते डेमो नाही दाखवू शकत सिस्टम हे असतं पॉवर ऑफ आहे ना तेव्हा डेमो नाही दाखवू शकत कारण डेमो दाखवतो तो सर करते सर सर जॉइन करा हो ठीक आहे सर
माइक ऑफ करायचं
अरे
Hello, sir.
Okay, sir, you are the co-host now.
Yes.
Manwar, sir, you are co-host.
Yes, but making co-host is of no use because I have joined from mobile, and I was actually wanted to show all the students how to actually implement it. But what happened? In our university, the old building is getting demolished. That's why the people cut off the power from the department. That's why I have decided to deliver this webinar from home itself. And for home, I
no problem, sir. No problem. You please continue.
So which will give half an hour backup. But as power went off and that half an hour went off, I couldn't do anything. I feel very sorry for the situation, but nothing can be done. So
I can understand, sir.
Discuss with the students the rest of the things. Once you understand these 5 basic steps, that means making the connection and then registering the connection, making the connection, creating a statement, and then getting the data in the result set and closing the connection. These are the basic steps which we can follow. So first thing is you have to install the Java compiler onto your system. So as it is open source, it can be done very easily. Now it will be installed in your program files folder, or otherwise if you want to install it in any other folder, then you can do so. But what you have to do is you have to set the path accordingly. So how will you set the path? You have to see the properties of your system, and once you see the property of that system, what you need to do is you have to go for advanced system settings, and in that advanced system settings you have to see the environment variables. In environment variables tab, you have to copy the path of your compiler as well as the connector. So you don't get confused with connector. I will talk about it, but put that path as a path in your advanced system setting. Once you do that, you have to install the MySQL community server, assuming that you are using MySQL. So after installing MySQL community server, while installing, it will ask many of the things. So out of those things, almost everything you have to keep it as a default. Only thing is you should note down the port number which will be provided by your MySQL community server. So default port number is 3306. So you may want to keep it as it is, or if you want to change it, then you can change it. If you are changing it, then you have to note it down, because while making the connection, you have to give that port number in your URL. That means in first parameter. After giving or after noting that port number, rest of the thing is easy. What you have to do is you have to take the driver from the vendor. Now vendor is MySQL. So from this MySQL vendor, you have to take the JDBC driver and you have to put it in your compiler folder. Now for the case of MySQL, the vendor provides it as a connector J. Connector J, that is the name given for that JDBC driver of MySQL. So you have to locate that file onto their site. You have to download that file. So that is basically a jar file. So put that jar file in the compiler folder. That means wherever your JDK folder is there, inside that JDK folder, bin folder will be there. So inside that bin folder, you have to keep that jar file, which is given by the database vendor. Now, if you are using Oracle, then Oracle may give some kind of connector. So that connector you need to see, and you have to download that connector, and you have to put that connector in the compiler folder. Once you put this folder, these files as a JDBC driver into corresponding compiler folder, again you have to set it as a path. Now once you set it as a path, what you have to do is you have to start writing program. Now you can open your editor, any editor you can take, and you can start writing your code. Now what we have to do is we have to use the JDBC API. So this first step you can do by saying or by importing java.sql.star package. So the similar statement you can write as a first statement in your Java program, import.java.sql.star and then semicolon as a separator. And thereafter you can start writing your class as usual, class and then name of the class. And inside this class method, you can write inside this class, you can write the main method. The syntax of main method is it should be public. It is not returning anything. So return type you can say void, and it is static in nature. Why static? Because main is been, or this method is being executed by the compiler. So without creating any object of this class, you want to execute this method. That's why the main method should be static method, and the command line argument parameter list, that is the usual demand of your main method, that can be given, and then you can start writing these 5 steps in your program. Now, one thing you need to keep in mind, whenever you are writing, say, some, or when you are connecting some third-party application in your Java program, then you need to handle the would-be errors. Would-be errors means if some errors are caused by these third-party applications, then your program must be able to handle these errors. So for this purpose, whatever code we are going to write, that code must be written inside try catch block. So we'll write the try block first, and inside try block, the first statement will be class.forName, and as a parameter you can write com.jdbc, com.mysql.jdbc.driver. So D will be capital in that case. So com.mysql.jdbc.driver, that driver class name we will pass as an argument for that for name method, and then we can create a connection. So connection can be created by using the get connection method. So get connection, and parameter you can send as a jdbc :mysql : // and if you are using same system, then you can give localhost, or you can give IP address if you know, or you can give the system name also if you know. So all these three things will work for any system. Okay. Followed by / and followed by the database you want to connect. Now inside MySQL, you might have created one database. So that database you should give here. That means name of that database should be given here. So that will be the first parameter. And then second parameter. So if you are using say MySQL, then the default user, we can take it as a root, and whatever password you have set. For example, if we set MySQL as a password, then that MySQL password you can set, or you can give as a third parameter. Now this get connection method belongs to driver manager. So the syntax will be driver manager dot get connection, and these 3 parameters, and this will be assigned to the connection object. So connection con is equals to driver manager dot get connection, and thereafter you will create a statement. So create statement can be created by using the create statement method of this connection object, and that will be assigned to the statement interface. So statement st, so st object you will create, and that will be assigned the con dot create statement. So once you do that, what you can do, you can fire the query through execute update method or execute query method. Now here you need to keep in mind that what kind of method or what kind of operation you are going to use. If you are using say DML kind of operation, then you have to use execute update method. If you are using say simple execute simple select method or select queries, then you have to use the execute query method. So this execute query or execute update method will require only one argument. And what is that argument? That argument will be simple query. So for example, say student table is there. So your query will be select star from student. Okay. So select star from student, that query, as it is a query, we will pass it as a string parameter to this execute query method. So once this query is been fired, so whatever result we obtain, that will be brought into the result set. So the syntax of this statement will be result set, and then object of result set, say result set rs is equals to statement dot execute query, and inside parenthesis the query will be select star from student. Now once you fire this query, all the table contents will be brought into the result set. So that will be brought in a tabular fashion or matrix fashion. That means rows will be there and columns will be there. So if there are say 5 records, then 5 rows will be there. And if this table contains say 5 columns, then the 5 columns will be there. So for example, the roll number is there, then name of student is there, then 3 subjects are there, then total percent is there. Then those many columns will be there, and as per the record, that means how many records are there, those records will be there. So everything will be came into the result set. Now what we have to do is we have to print all these records in a onto monitor set, our monitor. So what we can do, we can use the next method of result set. So next method will point to the initial record of your result set. So it will point to first record. Now as it is a physical, or physical means it some valid record, it will return true value. So as long as it returns true value, what you have to do is you have to traverse through that result set and whatever operations you want to do. Now here in this case we want to just print all those data. So here we can use the getter methods of result set object. Getter methods means there are various methods like get string, get integer, get float, get date. That means as many data types you are having in Java, those many getter methods are there along with this result set object. That means corresponding data is a varchar. So this varchar data you will map with string data type. So what kind of method you will use? You will use get string. If roll number is there and if you are taking for that roll number as integer data, then you have to use the get integer method of result set. If the date you are using as a data type in MySQL, then you have to map it with the SQL date type and get date method of result set you have to use. So almost every type methods are available as a getter method. Similarly, setter methods are also available. So for time being, that as we want to get the values from result set in our program, we will use the getter method. So what you have to do is you have to see what kind of data types you have used in your corresponding tables, and accordingly you have to use the getter methods. If it is string, then get string. If it is float, then get float, and store all those values in some temporary variables in your Java programs. And after getting that value, whatever you want to do with that value, you can do according to the problem demand. So here we are considering we just want to print those values. So we can print those values by using system.out.println statement. And thereafter, in a loop, we will move once again for the result set with the next method. Now, next method will point to the next record. If some valid records are there, then again, same thing we will do. And if suppose, if it is pointing to say last record or null record, that means if no records are there, then it will send back false result to our loop. And once we get false data for that loop, we will exit that loop. So thereafter we can write the next block of our error handling, that is catch block. And in that catch block, you can handle SQL exception or plain exception also. And if some errors are there, then you can write the error exception handling code there. Otherwise, what you can do, you can close the result set, close the statement object, close the connection object. So ultimately, if you are writing small codes, then you need not go for closing all these connections. But if you are using say 2 databases in the same program, or say multiple users are there for your system, then it is recommended to close your respective connections. And once you close that connection, you can go for compiling your program and testing your program. Actually, I wanted to show you all these 4 operations through my system, but as till now I'm waiting, if power comes on, then I can go live onto my system and show you. but I think actually I have taken much time, and I don't know how much you are satisfied by this theoretical description. I don't understand, but if time permits and if say Chavan sir permits, then in future we can repeat this webinar one more time. And I am feeling very awkward and very sorry for the situation arisen. I am very sorry, Chavan sir, and I am very sorry all the team. I can't do anything.
It's all right, Manwar sir. Sometimes that we are facing a problems. We also too face problems. Might be a power failure or any other technical issues are there. So we cannot predict that technical issues, no?
Yes. So
I think this is very nice on the database connectivity. Nice seminar and nice talk by Manwar sir. We'll again have a communication with you, and we'll present another on another topic with the continuation of this particular database connectivity.
sure,
So, Manwar sir, I'll request you that if you continue this webinar series in next a couple of weeks, same topics and the advanced part of this one, will it be feasible for you to
yes,
discuss?
yes.
So within a couple of weeks that we'll communicate with you, and we'll organize and foolproof one seminar on this particular topic.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Sure, sir.
Yes, sir. So once again, I'm very much thankful to the resource person, Dr. Avinash Manwar sir. Sir has nicely covered the Java application drivers, Java application programs, Java database connectivity, and MySQL environment with Java database connectivity and database table installation, connectivity methods, and interface creation. But due to power of and some technical issues at his end, sir is not going to show us live demonstration of the things, but in all, sir covered all the important concepts based on Java database connectivity, and I hope this is very much important with our students' point of view. So once again, thanks a lot, sir, for sharing the concepts and depth in Java database connectivity. I hope our students enjoyed this session. So once again, I am thankful to Dr. Avinash sir. Now, if anybody of participants want to ask any queries relevant with this topic, so they can proceed with the question. Yes, relevant with this topic, so they can proceed with the question. From participant side, if you have any question or queries, you can ask to sir.
Or you can give your queries in chat box. If you are unable to communicate, you give your queries in chat box.
Okay then. So I thought there is no query from participant side. Thank you, Avinash sir. Now I invite my colleague, Dr. Sabah for the formal vote of thanks. Over to Dr. Sabah, madam.
Okay. A very good afternoon to one and all present here. Honorable Principal of our college, Dr. M.B. Bagde sir, respected Dr. Vinay Chavan sir, Vice Principal and Head of Computer Science and IT Department, S.K. Porwal College, County. Our most valued resource person, Dr. Avinash B Manwar sir, Associate Professor, Department of Computer Science, Sant Gadge, Amravati University. Webinar organizing committee and all the participants, it is such an honor for me to get this opportunity to thank you all dignitaries. On behalf of the Computer Science and IT Department, On behalf of the Computer Science and IT Department, State Kesrimal Purwal College, Kamti, I express my gratitude to our Honorable Principal Dr. M.B. Bagre sir for his all kind of support for arranging this webinar on virtual platform. I extend my gratitude to Dr. Vinay Jawan sir, Head of CS and IT Department, for their enormous cooperation in the organization of this webinar. I also extend my gratitude to our guest and speaker, Dr. Avinash B Manwar sir, to take out time from his busy schedule to throw light on his important topic of Java. Thank you, sir, for inspiring and encouraging our students. I must thank the organizer team, Dr. Deepak Bhavsagar sir, Dr. Kishore M. Dhule sir, Mrs. Shamanju ma'am, Mrs. Jyoti Srivas ma'am, and technical assistants Praful Dhanvijay sir for their hard work to make this event successful. I thank all the participants for their active participation and contribution to make this webinar a great success. Now, with kind permission of organizer, I declare that this webinar a great success. Thank you so much. Now, I'm sharing a feedback link in comment box. So I'm requesting all of you to please fill that form. Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Sabah madam. So once again, I request to all participants, kindly proceed with the feedback form and please submit it in a very short time span. Once again, thank you, Dr. Avinash sir, Dr. Chavan sir, Dr. Bhavsagar sir, and have a great day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Avinash sir.
Thank you, Avinash sir.
Giving your valuable,
Nice of you.
sharing your valuable time with us.
After a long meeting that we were meeting, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
But I am not satisfied with today's webinar, sir. I am feeling very sorry, sir.
Number of times that we are getting some problems, and we have to face that particular problems. We'll solve that problem in due course of time.
Yes, sir.
In next couple of weeks, that we'll organize again same thing.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Nice day. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
So now we close the meeting.